What if the city you associate with cracked bells, founding fathers, and that one Rocky training montage every gym in the world has played at least once, was actually one of the most quietly revolutionary food cities in American history? What if the foods sitting in your fridge right now, the snacks you grab without thinking, the sandwiches you order on autopilot, the desserts you have built entire holidays around, came not from New York, not from New Orleans, not from some sun-soaked European village, but from a city most people only associate with history textbooks and one very famous cheesesteak? What if Philadelphia, the birthplace of American democracy, was also the quiet, stubborn, brilliant birthplace of the American grocery aisle? Buckle up, because your relationship with Philly is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Hi, my name is David, and this is Food Origins, the show where we pull back the curtain on the foods you grew up eating and find out they came from somewhere you never expected. If this is your first time here, hit subscribe, because today we are going all in on Philadelphia. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never think about a soft pretzel, a cream cheese bagel, or a root beer the same way again. Food number 1, the Philly cheesesteak. Let's get the obvious one out of the way, because if we did not start here, the comment section would riot, and honestly, I would deserve it. The Philly cheesesteak is arguably the most famous regional sandwich in American history. A long Italian roll, thinly sliced ribeye, griddled onions, and either melted American cheese, provolone, or, if you order it the way the purists do, a generous puddle of bright orange cheese whiz that should by all rights be illegal and somehow taste like heaven. And here is where the story gets almost too good to be true. The cheesesteak was not invented by a chef. It was not developed in a restaurant kitchen. It was invented in 1930 by a hot dog vendor named Pat Olivieri, who was working a small stand near the Italian market in South Philadelphia. The story, as the Olivieri family tells it, is that Pat was bored of his own hot dogs. He sent his brother to the butcher for some beef, sliced it thin, threw it on the griddle with some onions, and stuffed the whole thing into an Italian roll for his own lunch. A cab driver pulled up, smelled it, and demanded one. Pat sold him the sandwich on the spot. The cab driver took one bite and reportedly told Pat to forget the hot dogs entirely. Within a few years, that hot dog stand had become Pat's King of Steaks, and Philadelphia had a new identity. The cheese, by the way, came later. The original cheesesteak in 1930 had no cheese at all. A manager at Pat's named Joe Lorenza is credited with adding provolone in the 1940s. Cheese whiz was added in the 1950s after Kraft introduced it. A sandwich that now defines a city was built in layers. By accident. By hungry men feeding hungrier men. Every chain restaurant that has ever attempted a cheesesteak knockoff, every supermarket freezer aisle version, every Philly cheesesteak pizza, every Philly cheesesteak egg roll, every Philly cheesesteak flavored potato chip owes its existence to one bored hot dog vendor on 9th Street. Food number 2. The soft pretzel. Stay in Philadelphia, stay in the street food universe, and follow the smell down any sidewalk in Center City on a cold morning. The Philadelphia soft pretzel is not just a snack. It is a civic identity expressed in dough. A figure-8 twist, slightly chewy, salted aggressively, served warm from a paper bag with a streak of yellow mustard. Eaten standing up on a corner, because Philly has never once believed in sitting down to eat anything that fits in one hand. Now, soft pretzels in general are ancient. German monks were twisting them in the early Middle Ages. Pennsylvania Dutch settlers, who were actually German, not Dutch, brought the tradition with them to the colony of Pennsylvania in the late 1600s. But the specific Philadelphia soft pretzel, that figure-8 shape, that golden brown crust, that street vendor culture, was perfected and industrialized in Philadelphia in the 1800s. Here is the number that should stop every food historian in their tracks. The average Philadelphian eats approximately 12 times more soft pretzels per year than the average American. 12 times. That is not a preference. That is a way of life. The Federal Pretzel Bakery in South Philadelphia has been twisting them by hand since 1922. They are bought by the dozen, stacked into paper bags that get soggy in the most beautiful way, and consumed at football games, on street corners, in school cafeterias, and at funerals. The Philadelphia soft pretzel is the only food I can think of that is genuinely appropriate for every possible human occasion. The rest of the country has pretzels. Philadelphia has the pretzel. The difference is everything. Food number 3, cream cheese. I know what you are about to say. David, cream cheese is from New York. It is on every bagel from Brooklyn to Queens. It built an entire borough's breakfast culture. How dare you? Hear me out, because the paper trail on this one is genuinely shocking. Cream cheese as a commercial, mass-produced product was invented in Philadelphia. Specifically, it was developed in 1872 by a New York dairyman named William Lawrence, but the brand that turned it into a national obsession was created and produced in Philadelphia. In 1880, a Philadelphia distributor named Alva Reynolds began packaging Lawrence's cream cheese under a new brand name designed to evoke quality and refinement. He called it Philadelphia brand cream cheese. And here is the part that genuinely stops people cold. Reynolds chose the name Philadelphia not because the cheese was made there, but because Philadelphia at the time was considered the gold standard for American dairy quality. The city had a national reputation for the finest milk, the finest butter, the finest cream products in the country. Slapping Philadelphia on a label was the 1880s equivalent of slapping French on a wine bottle. It signaled luxury. It signaled craft. It signaled, this is the real thing. The brand was eventually acquired by what became Kraft Foods, and Philadelphia cream cheese went on to become the best-selling cream cheese brand in the world. Today, billions of bagels across the planet are spread with a product that bears the name of a city most people associate with cheesesteaks, not cream. The Philadelphia on the label is not decorative. It is a footnote of food history written in dairy. Food number 4, the hoagie. We need to talk about this one carefully, because the hoagie versus sub versus grinder versus hero versus po' boy debate has ended friendships, dissolved marriages, and started entire podcast feuds. So let me state the facts as cleanly as I can. The hoagie was invented in Philadelphia. The most widely credited origin story dates to the early 1900s in the Hog Island shipyards of South Philadelphia, where Italian immigrant workers building ships during the First World War carried massive sandwiches stuffed with Italian meats, cheeses, lettuce, tomato, onion, oil, and oregano on long Italian rolls. The workers were called hoggies after Hog Island. The sandwiches were called hoggies after the workers. Over time, the spelling drifted to hoagie, and there you have it. A sandwich named after a shipyard named after pigs. American food history at its absolute finest. The hoagie became the official sandwich of the city of Philadelphia in 1992, which is the kind of municipal decision I genuinely wish more cities would make. Other regions have their own versions. New York has the hero. New England has the grinder. New Orleans has the po' boy. But the hoagie has specific Philadelphia rules. The bread must be a soft Italian roll, never a hard baguette. The meats must be layered, never piled. The oil must be drizzled, never poured. And the oregano, on top, is not optional. Try ordering a hoagie without oregano in South Philadelphia, and the man behind the counter will look at you the way a priest looks at a sinner who has just confessed to something deeply confusing. The hoagie is Philadelphia's quiet contribution to global sandwich culture, and it was built on the backs of immigrants who needed to feed themselves and feed each other on a budget that left no room for anything fancy. That is a food origin story worth knowing. Food number 5, root beer. This one is going to surprise people who have spent their entire lives assuming root beer is some ancient frontier drink stretching back to the cowboys of the Old West. It is not. Root beer is Philadelphia. Specifically, it is Charles Elmer Hires, a Philadelphia pharmacist who first commercialized root beer in 1876 at the Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia, the World's Fair held to mark America's 100th birthday. Hires had encountered a recipe for a root tea made from sassafras, sarsaparilla, wintergreen, and a dozen other herbs and barks while on his honeymoon, of all things. He brought the recipe back to his Philadelphia pharmacy, refined it, carbonated it, and rebranded it. He originally wanted to call it root tea because that is what it was. But his marketing instincts told him that working-class Pennsylvania coal miners would never order something called tea. So he changed the name to root beer, even though it contained no alcohol whatsoever. It was a stroke of genius. The drink exploded in popularity at the Centennial Exhibition. Within a few years, Hires root beer was being sold across the country, first as a powder to mix at home, then as a bottled beverage, then as the foundation of the entire American root beer industry. Every A&W, every Barks, every Mug, every Dad's, every root beer float, every root beer barrel candy, every root beer flavored anything traces its lineage back to a Philadelphia pharmacist who renamed his herbal tea to sell it to minors. Charles Elmer Hires did not just invent a beverage, he invented an entire flavor category. And he did it from a small pharmacy in the city that hosted the World's Fair, where his drink first met the world. Food number 6, the Tastykake. Some foods are humble, some foods are unpretentious, and some foods are so unapologetically themselves that they earn a place in the cultural identity of an entire region without ever once trying to be more than what they are. The Tastykake is that food for Philadelphia. The Tasty Baking Company was founded in Philadelphia in 1914 by Philip Bauer and Herbert Morris, who wanted to create individually wrapped, freshly baked snack cakes that could be delivered to small stores across the city every single morning. That model, individually wrapped, fresh daily, distributed by an army of delivery trucks, was genuinely revolutionary for its time. It predated Hostess, it predated Little Debbie, it predated the entire concept of the modern packaged snack cake industry. The original product line included crimpets, candy cakes, juniors, and butterscotch crimpets, which I will defend with my entire chest as one of the great American snack creations of the 20th century. A small rectangular sponge cake topped with butterscotch icing, individually wrapped, sold for pennies, packed into school lunches across the Delaware Valley for generations. The Tastykake became so deeply embedded in Philadelphia identity that when the company faced financial trouble in the late 2000s, there was a genuine civic panic. The city of Philadelphia provided millions in financial assistance to keep the bakery operating. Politicians made speeches, newspapers ran editorials, people genuinely wept. A snack cake company received the kind of municipal rescue normally reserved for sports franchises, and nobody in Philadelphia thought it was strange. That is what it means to belong to a city. Food number 7, Scrapple. I have been dreading this one, not because Scrapple is bad, but because explaining Scrapple to anyone who did not grow up in the Mid-Atlantic is genuinely a challenge. Scrapple is a Pennsylvania Dutch breakfast loaf made from pork scraps, cornmeal, buckwheat flour, and a blend of spices, pressed into a brick, sliced, and pan-fried until the outside is crackling crispy and the inside is soft, savory, and entirely its own thing. It looks like a cross between meatloaf and a paving stone. It tastes like the best decision you have ever made before 9 in the morning. Scrapple was developed by Pennsylvania Dutch settlers in the late 1600s and 1700s, and Philadelphia became its commercial epicenter in the 1800s. The dish embodies the Pennsylvania Dutch philosophy that nothing edible should ever be wasted. Pork scraps that other cuisines might have discarded, including offal, head meat, and trimmings, were combined with cornmeal and spices into a loaf that fed working families for almost no money. Philadelphia's Reading Terminal Market, which opened in 1893, became the unofficial cathedral of Scrapple. Local butchers and Pennsylvania Dutch farmers brought it in by the truckload. The Haberset family began commercial Scrapple production in Philadelphia in 1863. They are still making it today, over 160 years later, with a recipe that has barely changed. Most of the country has no idea what Scrapple is. Most of the rest of the world has even less idea. But in Philadelphia, on a Saturday morning, in a diner with vinyl booths and a waitress who has called you hun since you walked in, a plate of Scrapple, eggs, and toast is one of the most honest meals available in American breakfast culture. It is a food invented from nothing by people who refused to let anything go to waste. That is its own kind of beauty. Food number 8, ice cream sodas. Stay with me on this one, because the history is contested, but the Philadelphia claim is strong enough that food historians have spent the better part of a century arguing about it. The ice cream soda, that magical combination of carbonated flavored soda water and a scoop of ice cream foaming together in a tall glass, is most credibly traced to Robert McKay Green, a Philadelphia soda fountain operator working at the Franklin Institute's semi-centennial celebration in 1874. The story goes that Green ran out of ice for his cream and syrup drinks midway through the celebration. He grabbed vanilla ice cream from a nearby vendor as an emergency substitute, dropped it into his carbonated drinks, and watched as customers went absolutely wild. The new combination outsold every other beverage at the celebration. Green tripled his profits in days. By the end of the celebration, the ice cream soda had been born. Within a decade, soda fountains across America had adopted the format. By the turn of the 20th century, the ice cream soda was the defining beverage of the American drugstore counter. It became the basis for the milkshake, the malted, the root beer float, and every variation that followed. Green became wealthy enough that he eventually had the words "originator of the ice cream soda" engraved on his tombstone. That is a man who knew what he had done. The ice cream soda is not just a drink. It is the moment that American soda fountain culture became American soda fountain culture. And it started in Philadelphia, at a celebration honoring the Franklin Institute, when a man ran out of ice and reached for a tub of ice cream instead. Food number 9. Stock ticker quotes aside, this one is genuinely important. Saltwater taffy is most commonly associated with Atlantic City, New Jersey, but the candy industry that produced it, distributed it, and turned it into a national phenomenon ran directly through Philadelphia. In the 1880s, a Philadelphia confectioner named Joseph Freilinger took the Atlantic City beachfront candy concept, refined the recipe, packaged it for shipping, and built a wholesale operation in Philadelphia that turned saltwater taffy into a souvenir industry. By the early 1900s, Philadelphia's candy manufacturing district, centered around Walnut Street and the surrounding blocks, was one of the largest concentrations of confectionery production in the entire country. Philadelphia was making candy for the world. Goldenberg's peanut chews, invented in Philadelphia in 1917 by a Romanian Jewish immigrant named David Goldenberg, became a Second World War staple, included in military rations, and shipped overseas by the millions. Whitman's sampler, the iconic boxed chocolates with the embroidery-style lid that grandmothers across America have been opening on Mother's Day for over a century, was created by the Whitman family in Philadelphia in 1842. Stephen Whitman, the founder, was 28 years old when he opened his small candy shop on Market Street. He had absolutely no idea he was about to invent the prepackaged boxed chocolate concept that would dominate American gift-giving for the next 180 years. Philadelphia's candy history is genuinely staggering. It is one of those quiet truths that gets buried under the cheesesteak. But if you ever find yourself eating a piece of boxed chocolate on a Sunday afternoon, there is a strong chance you are tasting the legacy of a city that built an empire on sugar. Food number 10. The water ice. This one is personal. If you grew up in Philadelphia, water ice is not a dessert, it is a sacrament. A specific Philadelphia preparation of finely shaved or crushed ice, flavored with fresh fruit syrups, served in small paper cups, eaten with a flat wooden spoon, on a sidewalk, in summer, while you are trying very hard not to drip it onto your shoes. The dish itself has Italian roots, brought to Philadelphia by Italian immigrants who arrived in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But what Philadelphia did to it is its own kind of invention. The Philadelphia water ice, which Philadelphians stubbornly pronounce as wooder ice, is smoother than a granita, finer than a shaved ice, less syrupy than an Italian ice, and made with real fruit, not just artificial flavoring. Lemon is the canonical original. Cherry is the rival. Mango, watermelon, and chocolate are the modern additions. Rita's Italian ice, founded in 1984 in Bensalem, just outside Philadelphia, took the local water ice tradition and turned it into a national chain. Today, there are over 600 Rita's locations across the country, and every one of them traces back to the South Philadelphia neighborhoods where Italian immigrant families had been hand-cranking water ice from buckets for nearly 100 years before Rita's ever opened its first storefront. The opening day of water ice season in Philadelphia, traditionally the first day of spring, is treated as a genuine civic holiday. Lines stretch around blocks. Children skip school. Adults skip work. And for one specific afternoon every year, the entire city stops to acknowledge that summer is on its way. Water ice is not just a frozen treat. It is the official sound of a Philadelphia summer, and it has been melting onto sidewalks for over a century. Food number 11, the cheesesteak hoagie. I know what you are thinking. David, you already covered the cheesesteak. You already covered the hoagie. You are double dipping. To which I say, yes, and Philadelphia would absolutely approve, because the cheesesteak hoagie is its own distinct invention, and it represents the kind of beautiful, slightly chaotic genius that only a city as opinionated about sandwiches as Philadelphia could produce. The cheesesteak hoagie is exactly what it sounds like. A traditional Philly cheesesteak with thinly sliced ribeye, griddled onions, and melted cheese, served on a hoagie roll, but with all the cold hoagie toppings added on top. Lettuce, tomato, raw onion, mayonnaise, oil, oregano, the works. It is a hot sandwich and a cold sandwich at the same time, in the same bun, in the same bite. It should not work. It absolutely works. The exact inventor of the cheesesteak hoagie is unknown, lost to the same kind of casual culinary history that obscures most great sandwich origins. But what is known is that by the 1960s and 1970s, Philadelphia delis and sandwich shops had begun offering the cheesesteak hoagie as a standard menu item, and it has been a beloved staple ever since. The cheesesteak hoagie embodies everything Philadelphia food culture stands for. Take two great ideas, refuse to choose between them, combine them with absolute confidence, and serve the result to anyone who walks through the door. No apology, no explanation, just sandwiches. 11 foods, one city that everybody thought they understood, and almost nobody actually did. Philadelphia is not just the city of the Liberty Bell. It is not just the city of Rocky Balboa. It is not just the city of cheesesteaks and Eagles fans, and a particular accent that turns the word water into wooder. Philadelphia is the city that invented the soft pretzel as a way of life. The city that put its name on the most famous cream cheese in the world. The city that turned a pharmacist's herbal tea into root beer. The city that built an entire snack cake empire from the back of a delivery truck. The city that gave the world the ice cream soda. And the city that taught America how to eat a sandwich standing up on a corner. I'm David. This is Food Origins. If this changed the way you think about Philadelphia, or the way you think about that boxed chocolate you bought for your mother last year, hit that like button and subscribe, because we have stories exactly like this one lined up for cities, countries, and cuisines that are going to completely rearrange the way you see your plate. Tell me in the comments which one of these surprised you the most. I have a feeling it will be different for everyone.